Well, hey everybody, my name is Jared Malat. I'm here with my good friend Mateo Calise, and this is the Coltist, season 2, episode 1, as in with the first pick in the 2023 NFL draft, the X selects. And I think we figured out that we're going to also attribute this podcast to Bryce Young. The reason that I think we should have just named it the Bryce Young episode, but we didn't, is for multiple reasons. We're going to talk about all of this. First, if you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. I put out regular content. I'm a aspiring head football coach, and I think what I have to say is valuable. I'd appreciate a follow. But first, uh, the the reason we call it season 2, episode 1 is we are now, you know, in the beginning of the second quarter here of the NFC championship
Divisional Cowboys.
divisional divisional.
Divisional Cowboys Niners. Currently 3-0 Niners. It's on the heels of the Bengals upsetting.
Sort of, except unless you believe in destiny. If you read the betting article I wrote, I said, usually when a team goes to the Super Bowl and loses, that team regresses. That didn't happen with the Bengals. Like, they stayed in the fight. Like, they're good, and like it's a out of body experience thing for them out on that football field. But to get back on track, struggled with naming convention here. Episode 1 with the first pick. Is it Bryce Young? Now, I'm arguing size is relevant. I'd rather have CJ Stroud at 1.
Yeah.
And then because of there being like an argument who the first overall pick is, then it's just with the next pick. So my question is, to start, Mateo, first, how are you? And also, are you trading up, if you're the Colts, if you're Chris Ballard, to select who with the first overall pick? So I guess back all the way up to that, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing fine, first of all. And like, to answer your question, I'm not trading up. Like, from what I saw, the price, like, of course I saw Bears Twitter's fan, saying like, okay, for the first overall pick, you had to give number 4, 36. You had to give Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, and DeForest Wagner. I'm not doing that. I think they're delusional.
Yes.
And the thing is, for me, if you ask me, the one quarterback I don't like is Will Levis. Okay. Like, he's the one that I'm off the board.
Okay.
Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud, or Bryce Young, whoever of the three, I'm fine with. So, and I'm not trading up because let's suppose, in a weird world like the Bears trade down with the, say, Atlanta Falcons or Carolina Panthers. Just imagine, and then, it goes Stroud, Young, and Richardson, and all you have is Will Levis. I would be fine, taking either Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. Like, those are players, generational defensive players that could very well transform your defense. Like, they are studs. So, it's sort of like a win-win where you're like, you either get a really good, a potential franchise quarterback, or you get a generational defensive level talent player. And I'm not trading up because the price, is just way too much.
I'm with you. And I'm glad that you said it so that we didn't have to argue about it, because I'd have shut that shit down so fucking fast. First of all, what if we established Chris Ballard is good at talent evaluation? Yeah. What he hasn't done for this franchise is put a franchise quarterback on the table and ordered you to protect him. What he's done is put capable people in that spot and tried to say, can you drag us over the finish line effectively? Just to be clear, on the other side of that are basically there's teams that are dragging into the playoffs, and there's teams that, like the Niners, the Eagles, the Chiefs, obviously the Bengals just have whatever it is, that are built to play in the playoffs. Excuse me.
No, yeah.
I agree with you that there's the price to move up. If I'm the Colts, if I'm Chris Ballard, if I'm just Jim Irsay, If I have any say here, it's stand pat. I'm also game for trading back. And I get it. I'm going to get hell for this. Hell for this. But let me explain something to you. Okay. First, let me go back to I agree with you and move on to, in addition to saying like, hey, there's guys here at 4 I could take that are non-quarterbacks. I don't think you could do that and not have people burning down your house.
Yeah.
Okay. So for that reason, I'm also sitting pat, but here's what I'm also not doing. I'm not selecting a quarterback. I'm not entertaining any phone calls. I'm just watching this shit show unfold in front of me. And here's what's going to happen. Chicago is going to fumble this bag. They are going to take less than they could get for this pick, and they're just going to move back a few spots. And we're going to be like, that was the most innocuous shit that just debilitated your franchise's ability to use these picks to build your team and challenge your roster to make it better. That's what this draft is for. So I'm with you. Fuck yeah. If they rip quarterback, and you're like, yeah, I'll just take an edge rusher, man. I'm good here.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'll go play this quarterback roulette game. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't think that is on the table. But here's what I'm also saying. It don't matter who you draft if you aren't capable of building a system around protecting that athlete. So what I'm saying is, just like you're saying, like, I'm not really a big fan of Will Levis. Cool. I don't think he's a good enough athlete. I don't want that guy anyway. And then I think that Bryce Young's too skinny. People are going to overpay for his performance. This is a former Heisman winner that had an additional year starting in college football after that at Alabama, and a bowl game that he won handily, right? So I think and I'm just agreeing with your assessment, right? So I'm saying I don't like Will Levis either. Bryce Young is mine, where I'm like, he's too slight for me to pick to be a franchise quarterback. I'm sure he's going to be fine. Tua. And then when you really think about this, there are going to be reaches for CJ Stroud. Stroud showed, our own colleagues are watching him play and are like, look, I don't know, man, he's got it all. And it's like, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you had a chance to watch. I recently watched the game against Georgia, all the tape. And what I saw, you're going up against, it's not like you're going up against, a Division II school, or he was going up against Georgia, against arguably, one of the greatest defenses of all time,
right.
College football all time.
Right.
And the plays he was making and the poise he was showing, you're like, okay, this guy's going to be special. Like, this was his probably, his greatest performance on the biggest stage when it mattered the most against, the toughest opponent. So that makes you say, okay, well, this is a guy that I want leading the franchise.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying like I'm not going to get him. Is not I don't want him, but I'm not moving. And here's why. The Colts are in a position with their roster where, like, man, they're a handful of players away from being super competitive. Obviously, they got to answer this quarterback position. But what I'm saying is, like, I want whichever one of the other guys, non-Will Levis, because I'm just agreeing with you, and then I think no Bryce Young, and then it leaves you with like C.J. Stroud. It leaves you with your Anthony Richardson. And I'm just again thinking what you're thinking, where I'm like, I could even trade back. So that's how I look at this pick. Like, I'm not trading up. I don't think the price to move up from 4 to 1 is worth it. I don't think any of these. I agree with you on Stroud. That's why he's like right above my head over here. Like, I'm pretty sure this is the guy out of this class. And I did the same sort of shit with Jalen Hurts, right? Where I was like, this is the guy. And the people told me, no, he's not. He's like a late second round quarterback. Like, you don't understand what athletes in this league do. But here's what I'm really interested about now that I think about this. I was talking to my wife before our podcast. What I'm really interested to see what happens is what happens to Bryce Young between his last game and the combine, and what level of participation does he have? A lot of the time, I mean, these Alabama kids show up at the combine and ready to go, right? And so that's my thought process. They haven't played in a while. You have a lot of time to recuperate and then continue to train and develop as an
Yeah.
athlete. And then again, I want to make sure that I'm putting the impetus on, like, I don't care who the player is. You got to protect that player. I'm not moving for him. I don't think that there's like I said, I think Stroud's somebody that someone's going to move heaven and earth for.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want to be that. I don't want to do that. I just want to sit where I'm at, take my player, and then promise to protect that guy at all costs, and tell my offensive lineman, like, look, under no circumstances is anybody doing snow angels next to his dead body. It's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Not
getting 100.
happening.
I don't care how big the fine is. I'll pay it. But beat that dude up. Like, I don't know what are we even talking about? This is and I remember. Do you remember when we sat on this podcast and I said how mad I was at Pryor when he comes up, he's behind trailing a play. Jonathan Taylor's out in front as usual, right? And he's on the edge down the right sideline, and
Yeah.
the play's kind of held up, and the linebacker 58 on the other team blows up Jonathan Taylor from behind, but he doesn't knock him over. It just kind of like, it was like a shitty cheap shot.
Yeah. And prior.
And Pryor runs right up to him and just stood there, bro. And I thought about, like, take all the helmets and shoulder pads off. You're at a movie with your friend, and somebody runs up to them from behind them and just two hands pushes them in the back. They don't fall over because they're like an athlete, so they maintain, like, what the hell? And like,
Yeah.
you were standing right there, and your reactions,
Yeah. I don't
you're
want
too
those.
involved there. No, sorry, you don't lift weight like that to go out there and act like that. You know what I mean? Like, so moving on. What I'm getting at is, like, it doesn't matter who the guy is. You gotta have a plan to protect that person no matter what. I'm not trading up because I'm not willing to give up assets because these
Yeah.
people are too
Yeah.
important
You
year
need
to year to
those. Yeah.
year.
You need those assets.
You need to
You're not
challenge
in a
your
position
existing
that you can
offensive
afford. Yeah.
line, right? You need to bolster your pass rush. There's all kinds of situations in playing in that, like, I would trade back. I'd want to
Yeah.
give a new head coach, by the way, in the middle of this head coaching search. I need to give that head coach additional bodies. So I might be in a position to trade back from 4 to 10 to get an additional pick or two in the first couple rounds. I don't even know what the price would be to move back. So I don't even want
Yeah.
to talk about that. But I'm saying, like, I'm not giving up assets at this point if I'm the Colts. I get it that, like, it appears to be a complete rebuild. Obviously, new
Yeah.
head coach, new quarterback. It is, by all intents and purposes, a complete rebuild. But I don't want to leverage the long term, like the 5 to 7 year plan, for a 2 to 3 year development. Like,
Yeah.
they're on the clock. You know what I mean? Like, once you get drafted, once you get hired as the head coach of the Colts, like, it's on now. This franchise is win dependent. But, like, a lot of people's jobs hang in the balance. That's kind of one of the things I think about when your team's winning and you're in the playoffs. Your newspaper, your local paper is selling more copies. When
Yeah.
the people aren't getting laid off, right? So it would be something that would motivate me, obviously, on a different level. If I was like a professional athlete, like, get up every day and, like, be good at my job and be good as a team. But I say that to say, so let's segue into this head coaching search. What do you think?
Yeah.
So obviously, we're starting off 2023 season 2 with, in addition to picking in the top 5,
Yeah. We got a coaching vacancy spot.
we got to hire a new head coach. And the rumor, so first of all, if we have actual news to break, we will do that as a group. I'm not breaking any news. The rumor, the truth is that the Jim Irsay has said, no matter who they interview, Jeff Saturday's in this till the end, right? So as a candidate, he will be
Yeah.
right up until the end. Now let's pontificate a little bit about that. Okay, because my understanding also, again, I'm not breaking any news when I say Jim Irsay takes in media, so wouldn't be surprised he watches a few minutes of this. One of the things that I have as an issue is that if I'm gonna, so I got to think about, like, obviously I've never been a billionaire NFL team owner managing $100+ million staff. But I can look at the numbers. I can see 1-7, losing 7 in a row at the end. Now, if
Yeah,
you can tell me that's what he was instructed to do and the shitty coaching decisions that he made during those games, he was told to do that, then he did it masterfully. And maybe we ought to hire the guy. Okay. But
yeah,
I
because
just
that
don't,
was a fine job. Yeah.
yeah, I just don't believe that. They said that. And so the dude's 1-7, 7 losses in a row to end the season, outscored something along the lines to like 18-99 in the fourth quarter or something like that in that time period. Like literally, he wasn't pushing the players because in practice clearly because they weren't bringing it late in games. It's evident, right? Like the guys weren't conditioning, and so as a result of not being in shape enough in the fourth quarter, they're all gassed out because the offense was inefficient, leaving the defense on the field too long. Those guys only got so many legs, so many miles on tire you can go through in a year before you just burn out. Not to mention the fact, like, the Colts, something to think about. One of the best defensive players in the league plays on the Colts. Shaquille Leonard did not play this season,
He did not
and
play at
that
all.
defensive unit was actually really good. So now it's just like, well, that defense is really good. They're probably lots of those players are going to be retained. Somebody's leaving. That's not what we're talking about today. But it's Gus Bradley's like a real pro, right? Held that defensive unit together. It'd be hard for me, and we talked about this as a group, to even let Gus Bradley go because it's like, man, that defense is actually good. You get Shaq back, and it's like, oh, real good. Hold on, and then it's just about, can you get this pick right? And then to the other thing about 1-7, 7 losses in a row, outscored late in games, so they're clearly not being pushed in practice. There's no evidence of conditioning. So the other thing you look at is, and what I've been working on, brother, and I'm going back to school for this, for analytics, to get better at it, to like get better at the presentation version of like, I want to be an NFL head coach. How the fuck do you got to be do that? Well, I have to be a published author. I have to have a coaching background. You know what I mean? A better education, more experience. Like I'm working on all that shit. It's what I'm doing. Started under 40. Here we go. Right. So one of the things I've picked up on, going through this like analytics and going through all this shit is like, you have to have a plan, and it has to start above your head when you get this job. So, and I'm not getting heavy breathing thinking about it. Like you have to have a plan for what the GM needs to be producing for you, and that's somebody else's job that you have to come in. I have to have a plan for what I need at every position, how I want you to scout at every position, how I want to prioritize this year's draft. All you have to have that all under wraps. That's all before the draft. So this guy's got to come in and he has to be prepared. I don't believe Jeff Saturday is that guy. Why? Because the information came out that Jeff Saturday wanted, like, the offense belongs to the offensive coordinator, the defense belongs to the defensive coordinator, and there's the special teams guy, and special teams fucks up, it's on him. And kind of make the head coach like the floating head above the team that's not, I'm just a big cheerleader on the sideline. I'm not actually going to make any important decisions. Dear God, holy shit, please no, right? That's what Jeff Saturday wants, is he kind of just wants to be the guy. That's not how you win in the NFL anymore. Look at who's winning. Look at Sirianni. Look at Shanahan. Like look at how organized and effective leaders they are, and how it's in the players' hands. And the big thing for me, no plan, bad record, evidence of a lack of conditioning, meaning unable to motivate a millionaire athletes, right? Like we kind of talked about, like it's very difficult to motivate people that have like oodles of American dollars. Well, here's what I've realized. And this is kind of what I would ask our audience, ask you, ask anyone. So like, I want to be an NFL head coach. And I've learned one of the best, most important things about being a leader, like the biggest part of that is motivating people. Like obviously people that are motivated perform better, play better, especially late in football games, right? And then make less mistakes too. So my thought process when I watch football games is like some of the time when these guys get hit, it's like that guy was kind of rip his head off. Like he's just trying to kill him, take him out of the game. If I'm doing anything in life and I know that a possible outcome is the other guy heavily padded is running at me as fast as he can, he's trying to take my head off, then like how do you feel about preparing knowing the other guy's trying to kill you? Right? Like, and so I don't find it very that motivated the hell out of me. And I said it, right? Like how do you feel about preparing for a war of attrition with someone who will stoop to legitimate like assault to like win, right? Like how do you motivate yourself to prepare for that, or how do you not be motivated to prepare for that? That's probably like the better question, right? So with no evidence of conditioning, a 1-7 record, no plan that's known, right? Like that just maybe with the fluff they put out in the public, maybe Jeff Saturday's got something that we don't know about, but
I don't see it.
Man, there had to be some shred of evidence of competency that he has shown you other than that he was an unpaid volunteer NFLPA rep for the Colts when he was in the NFL. And I get it. A lot of people are like, hey, man, that's basically like being a lawyer for your team and negotiating. And that's not in a draft room. That's not out on the road scouting players. I hadn't heard shit about Jeff Saturday going to sporting events, right? Like if you wanted to be a head coach, you should be at these big college football games evaluating talent. Is there any evidence that Jeff Saturday's gonna be at the Senior Bowl, right? Like I should be running like public relations and media for these people. It's like how obvious do you want it to be where your head's at? Is like we have to continue to draft in the trenches. Like the thing about Chris Ballard, he's not wrong. He's yet to be presented with a quarterback prospect worth trading away the future of your franchise for. So you can put that on wax that up to this point, there hasn't been any player that's come out, no Peyton Manning, no Andrew Luck coming out of these classes worth leveraging your entire franchise for. CJ Stroud might be this class's version of that, but let's not play that game where you go look at Andrew Luck tape versus Stroud tape, and you're like, yeah, Andrew Stroud, and it's like, look at the coverages, look at the field average starting field position for him. Like he's not driving the ball 90 yards every time he gets it. No, there's a reason Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning, because they were on like bad teams, is what I'm saying. Like Ohio State's good. They started at like the 48 every time they got the ball. He only has to throw like 2 balls. He's in the end zone. Like, come on, guys. The reality is, no, again, so I like making points and repeating them. So it's like people like they're not changing their fucking tune, right? There's no evidence here that I've seen publicly that Jeff Saturday should be hired here. I haven't seen anything. There's nothing there was something that Dan Orlovsky said. So I will give you the shred of positive is that they were like 29th in like DVOA rushing before Jeff Saturday, and they were 11th. Their win block percentage was ass before he got here. It was real good when he was here, and that's evidenced by there was like a string of games that the young left tackle Raymond
Bernard Raymond,
he had a string of games where he played well. So it is true that he had to be capable of something. Like we don't know if I could do this and that little shit smoke would come out of my hand. You know what I'm talking about? The little like the failed firecracker. That's Jeff Saturday's. Like I can do magic. He doesn't have that. There are a dozen other candidates here, and like things are coming out about him. Like I've started asking around, like, why isn't Eric Bieniemy a legitimate head coaching candidate? He's had so much success at Kansas City. I figured it out. He's been tabbed as difficult to get along with.
And he also has some of the field issues, I believe. Like there was some alleged, let me check it out. That some assault charges and something like that.
Doesn't surprise me, but one of my
Disorderly conduct and fighting in public.
okay, well that's evidenced by him getting in a like altercation with Patrick Mahomes at halftime at a Colts game when it was here in Indy. I got a buddy that works for the Colts, like the stadium, like during home Colts game, he works at Lucas Oil. He works on the visitor side. So that said, I think that kind of takes him off the table for me. Not the assault shit. I don't give a fuck about that. I'm talking about how he deals with players. He's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah, you
stay.
don't
He's
want
gonna
them with
stay
a
in Kansas City
rookie.
because he's a tough hire anywhere else. Because it automatically the players are gonna be like, "Why would you leave Patrick Mahomes? Oh, because you couldn't get along with him. How am I gonna get along with somebody that can't get along with Patrick Mahomes? You can see where my head is, where these dumb athletes are, right? So, uh, there's a handful of other guys. Obviously, I want the guys that are winners, right?
Yeah,
The OC from Philly seems
yeah.
fine. I think it has to be
Shane
an offensive
Steichen.
coach. I think it has to be an offensive coach.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Yeah.
It has to be somebody winning. Um, and so like Steichen, as I think you
Ideally
pronounce
for
his
me,
name.
yeah. Ideally for me, it's an offensive minded coach, and Gus
Yeah,
Bradley stays on the team as the defensive coordinator.
that's my hope too.
Like that would be the ideal scenario if you ask me. So someone like the top five off the top of my head are
Yeah,
Mike Kafka, who's the offensive coordinator for the New York Giants. I like him. And he was, he before that he was the passing game coordinator for the Chiefs. So he had a hand in the, in
yeah,
the Patrick Mahomes rise. Then
yeah.
you have Bryce Callahan, who is the offensive coordinator for the Bengals, and another guy I really like and whose stock should be
He's close.
much
He's just
higher
in
after
Cincy.
today. Yeah, he's since he's close. Then you also have we talked about him, the offensive coordinator of the Eagles. That is Shane Steichen, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. The only
Steichen.
trouble I see with him is that he's really close with Sirianni, and we saw how Sirianni feels about the Colts franchise. We saw how he feels about the Frank Reich situation. So that would be perhaps why he
Problematic.
wouldn't take the job. Yeah,
It's like
and
he's gonna bring in a toxic
yeah,
environment.
you never know. And then you have the other two that I'm like, okay, I wouldn't be sure, but I would be just fine. Are Leslie Frazier, who's the offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills, and Kellen Moore, who has been running the Cowboys offense for like 3 years now. That would be my least favorite, but I would still be happy with that. So those are my top five candidates.
Well, you've pointed out, all of those people have more coaching experience and success at their positions than Jeff Saturday does.
Yeah,
And those things are measurable. And that's why I look at it and I try to be as binary as possible. Like, is there the candidate on paper that like this should be the guy? It sounds to me it's like the guy that's been doing it the longest at the highest level that maybe hasn't got a shot yet. Because it's not like you go head coach to head coach, right? It's not like they haven't talked about publicly bringing in somebody that they've employed before. So it's like there shouldn't be any surprises, right? They've interviewed publicly, which is one of the things that I've found very strange about this process is the public acknowledgement of first round interviews for during head coaching search. I felt like it might be a little much to be like putting that out on social media. Like we interviewed this guy, we interviewed this guy. I think that to add to your little list, Dan Quinn's going to get an opportunity eventually.
yeah,
Also, the rumor is, like I said, no matter who these players, no matter who these coaches are, Raheem Morris is another one. They're going to get opportunity. Again, I'm not even saying I want them. I didn't do enough research. Once I realize like it's just got to be who can establish, maintain, and consistently motivate and extrapolate like what you need out of these people at high levels. Like who's the best at that of these people, right? And I think a lot of these coaches don't even know how to spell those words. So that's part of the problem is we need better coaching candidates.
Yeah.
If the reason I say that is because if you interview 10 people and for this job, and then Jeff Saturday comes back as one of the finalists, then your interview criteria wasn't good enough. You needed better head coaching candidates. But I think the bigger picture here is that Jim Irsay is going to inhibit this process. I think that's the holdup here. I think that's the reality. Why even like somebody hasn't already been hired is there's hesitation on anyone's end when you're getting this opportunity. Like, how much power do I have really?
Yeah.
There was a conversation when Jim Harbaugh was a candidate to be a head coaching candidate in the NFL about he may want too much control. These teams aren't willing to cede. And that's why he went back to coach football. He went back to coach football to maintain a reputation because he got called out for doing illegal stuff. So he's sticking around to avoid Michigan getting a death penalty, effectively. So there's that. That's why he's out the window, right? And so, like I said, I think it
Yeah.
has to be very measurable. I don't believe what I've heard is untrue. Where like Jeff Saturday's plan is to this guy's responsible for this guy's responsible for this guy, you know what I mean? Like breaking it down in departments and shit. No. I don't think that is gonna fly, but for some reason it's gonna linger. It's like I don't know, it's like a hernia or something. I don't know. It's weird. Jeff Saturday's effect. The Jeff Saturday effect is weird. White men failing upward. I just this I That's the only legitimate reason that he gets hired is just because that's the world we live in, right? I hate to say it, like I have a better coaching record and more experience and more training than Jeff Saturday does to do that job. So it's like when you have to talk about him, you're like, man, it's really unfortunate that like all the indicators that you would look for are like not there. Man, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's really
You said
troubling.
it. You said it. Like, and everything, like we talked about this, we said, Dan Orlovsky pointed out the positives, and every single positive thing he pointed out, you can refute those. Like the offense was objectively worse with him.
Mhm.
If you look at EPA
Yeah.
per play, it was worse. And you were 1-7, and you blew the biggest lead in NFL history,
Mhm.
and you lost against the Texans.
Mhm.
Again, blowing a lead and in
Mhm.
spectacular fashion.
Mhm.
So you can't vouch for Saturday in what was done, because it was like perhaps the most awful 8-game stretch I have ever seen from the Colts. And from a team with the amount of talent that
It's like
they
you said,
have, because
1-7, lost 7 in a row,
yeah,
blew
and
the largest lead in NFL history, lost to Texans.
yeah, and 1-7, it extrapolates to 2-14, which was what was it, the record when we drafted Andrew? Was it 2-14 also, right? Like
So was it really?
that 2-win season. So and I believe it was even worse than that, because at that point you had no talent whatsoever. You
Yeah.
did not have a talented number one receiver. You did not have a serviceable offensive line. And I think if we get the head coach hiring right, and we get a decent quarterback, like this is a team that could compete in the near future, because I don't think the offensive line is as far away as some people think it is. Because when you look at it position by position, we go left tackle, you have Bernard Raymond, who was really solid the last 8 weeks. So you're set there. Quentin Nelson, nothing else to say. You're
Right.
set. Ryan Kelly, he was really bad, but he should not be like this bad again,
Yeah.
like for the amount of talent that he has. And you can also make the argument that Ryan Kelly was bad because he was just constantly thinking about what was going to happen on his right
Yep.
with the right guard. I think if you get, like a veteran right guard, a guy with experience that can come in and play right away, you should be more than fine. Like you should go back to being a top 5 offensive line.
Which
You
which
should
bodes
return to
which
that.
bodes well for a young quarterback.
Yeah.
Um, a good offensive line, strong running game, and then established uh receivers and a
Yeah, and
established group of weapons. I'm still thinking about Jelani Woods, Alex Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr. Like these guys are young and like really athletic. Like this offense can still fly. Defense is still good. I'm a fan of consistency. I think that like we've said, I think it would be a mistake to try to bring somebody else in here at defensive coordinator after the job Gus Bradley did. I think he did a hell of a job. I think that you're putting a lot more pressure on your defense when you get another coordinator in here. I understand that that's just how it goes. When you
yeah,
hire a new head coach, he's going to want his own guys. So I'm willing to go, okay, I'm willing to take on a new defensive coordinator. I don't like that. But I get it. It's part of this. That's why you hope that the guy, I don't know. It's almost like you were talking about the guy that was the passing game coordinator for the Chiefs.
Yeah, Mike Kafka.
That's strong. That's really strong because again, a lot of people want to say they saw Patrick Mahomes coming, and nobody did. What happened was his development and the protection and the game plan were built around what he's capable of, which is whatever fuck he wants to do, he can do it.
Yeah,
Um, so it's just important to understand that like it was like a quarterback was allowed to be themselves and grow at their position without a lot of the pressure. And when someone's just allowed to flourish, this is this is just the result. Like remember, he wasn't, if I remember correctly, and again I want to be corrected when I'm wrong, when Patrick Mahomes was drafted he wasn't expected to be a starter right away, right? Like there was a guy in front of him
he had
and he got injured, right?
He had Alex Smith for a year.
Yeah.
And they actually, I believe they made it to the playoff with Alex Smith at quarterback, and he came in like the season after that, and he blew it up and was
Yeah.
yeah.
So
They just never
he got
looked back.
traded up for us, so they saw value in him, and then he just kind of got to sit behind somebody and watch them do it right. Right.
Yeah,
So with that kind of experience, like you're gonna get a lot better player. The Colts don't have that luxury in my eyes. I hope for the Colts that Matt Ryan walks away from football. He would be crazy to do that. So he's going to force the Colts' hand. I don't see a way that you retain him. So I don't know what you're going to do about Matt Ryan, but I would be shocked if they retain. Same thing with Nick Foles. Be shocked if you retain him. Sam Ellinger is a quarterback where you're like, he could be my backup. Fine. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
the reality
yeah.
is
Just
I need athletes, and Matt Ryan and Nick Foles ain't athletes. Sam Ellinger is at least an athlete. So I'm gonna go get a way better athlete with a way better arm, and we're gonna try to develop him as fast as we can into our starter. And if we can't, we're gonna start Sam Ellinger and just try to keep it close. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
just try to keep it close. And hope that you don't have to interject the kid. I even saying that I realize Sam Ellinger's probably gone too. They're probably going to have to take on a veteran quarterback. And I think that potentially, and I'm saying this, knowing I'm wrong, but I would almost double dip that way. If I'm the Colts, I might take a shot on a guy that is in the status between and like he's not quite an aging starter like Matt Ryan, who's gonna either hopefully he walks away from the game. He'd be crazy to
hopefully he
do that.
walks away and
Hopefully he walks away from the game. He's not gonna do that. Hopefully he walks away from the game. Otherwise, you're gonna have to like cut him or whatever, try to get something out of him. Whatever, it doesn't even matter. But like a Derek Carr, right? Like like a Pat, like anybody, any of these quarterbacks. But I think like We also need to consider the quarterback roulette game. That is absolutely
Yeah.
going to happen. And how that could have an impact on the Colts. But again, like I said, I think we established that pretty solidly. Like, there's not a quarterback prospect here other than Stroud worth trading up for. And if I'm the Colts, I'm just not buying that.
Yeah.
I'm making everybody else do that. Ultimately, it's just like you said, I could trade back and still get like you said, like an Anthony Richardson and be fine because of the quality of athlete that player is. You can make it work as long as you keep him involved in football and keep him developing as a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that will be the big thing. And again, we still have the Senior Bowl ahead of us. We still have the Combine, and I think those things are like super important. It should absolutely have a big impact on who you draft. And the Colts have used the Senior Bowl and the Combine. I mean, if you think about last year's class, they almost exclusively drafted off the RAS pool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, if they're just already using data, and they just chalk did that too. Like, we just picked 9 9s. That's what we did. The same thing for this upcoming draft. It's like we still need a pass rush. You still probably need a corner. Your Kenny's probably gone. Like, you're gonna need another
Yeah.
difference maker. So you always need edge, interior, right? Like, so you just need these picks. That's why you don't trade up, is you need the picks. You need enough that it's almost like you could almost trade back. So I would rather put that out there in the universe, right? That instead of trading up and doing everything to trade up, no, sit pat, let everybody else sell their whole franchise to get up there in front of you and pick a guy that they can't protect. Tell me I'm not preaching gospel, right? Whoever trades up above the number 4 spot, that quarterback is going to be rushed to play because they're unable to protect their quarterback. And that quarterback's his development's going to be hampered because he's being forced into action. Where the Colts, if they just sit pat and even trade back, you pick up an extra pick, pair the quarterback with a guard, right? Or pair a quarterback with a wide receiver, even like just to give it something, right? As opposed to giving up stuff to move forward. I just think that's not the play. And then obviously we should talk about the Pacers, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We.
Got to
So
talk about the
basically,
Pacers.
what are we in? Like, what is it? Like a 7-game losing streak? 8-game, perhaps.
It's been a rough.
7-game losing streak without Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, they haven't been close. 2-point games with the Hawks, lost by 5 to the Suns last night. But on the whole, man, without one of the best point guards in the NBA, your team just doesn't seem nearly as potent on offense. And I feel like that's like,
Yeah,
goes without saying, like,
makes sense.
They traded for this guy. They, you know what I mean? There's a lot of hope riding on him. It's always good though to get a lot of excess minutes for a young basketball team though. So the other side of that is it's putting additional pressure on these veterans, the McConnells and the Turners of the world.
Yeah.
But I think they're on their way out, and I think they're playing for their next contract. Like, and maybe maybe they want to stay in Indy, and maybe they will stay. And maybe I'm speaking a year too soon, but I still think, with this 7-game slide, somebody said something like a couple more losses, and the Pacers are basically right back at the top 10, picking in the top 10 in the lottery again.
Yeah. So, and that is why I think there's a real possibility that we might be sellers. We might be sellers at the deadline. If I'm deciding for the Pacers, Miles Turner, it's you either resign for the long term or you're out, like for whatever.
Well, the question
really
is always,
whatever.
can this guy win me a game? Miles Turner cannot win you a game.
Nah,
Sorry, that's not what he does.
He's a nice piece to have,
Yeah.
but he's not that guy. So it's like,
Nope.
He's
just a starting center. You know what I mean? It's hard enough to get that in the NBA anyway.
Yeah, so I would be if I'm the Lakers, I'm calling the
Yeah.
pace. If they drop another 2 or 3 games,
Yeah.
I'm calling him about Miles Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Might even call him about Buddy Hield, who's been a really nice. Like again, those are pieces.
Mm-hmm.
The Pacers don't need them.
Right.
So if you're losing, might as well get something in return. So
Exactly.
also,
What
you're the
I'm saying.
Lakers. You're on the outside looking in. You need those pieces, and you need those pieces now more than ever. You can't afford to miss the playoffs. You are 20, 21, 25. So if I'm the Pacers, I might even be calling the Lakers myself. It's just it makes too much sense not to happen for it to be like I'm thinking a trade centered around Buddy Hield, Miles Turner for that 2027 first round pick.
Yeah.
It just makes too much sense. And then you
Yeah.
you figure out the financials, you do that, and it works. Like it's a win-win trade. For the Lakers, you get those pieces that you desperately need. You need those role players.
Yeah.
And the Pacers, you get rid of guys that you have no use for, and you get what potentially could be like if all goes right, it might well be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft that year, because LeBron is surely not going to be playing by that year. And with Anthony Davis, you never know.
Right. And I doubt Anthony Davis finishes his career in LA. So
Yeah.
there's always that. And I would say the same thing about LeBron. There's no guarantee he ends his career in LA either. But I don't know, with LA, it's like you said, like I don't want any of their players. I want picks. If I had like a rethought, a retooling of the way my brain works when it comes to sports nowadays. Now I'm more thinking about I just need bodies. I see more irons, and I need as many people as I can possibly get through here, see what their development cycle looks like. Are you capable? Consistently capable? Oh shit, you might make a rotation. Oh, can you get some consistent minutes and produce? Oh shit, you can get some consistent minutes and produce. What if I increase your minutes? Do you increase your production? Oh, your production increases as your minutes increase. Okay, so like that's a player you can invest in. You can put him into your rotation. He could break your 10 man. He could break a 7 man. He could be your fucking 6 man off the bench if he can damn near catch a double double off the bench, right? That's your Matherin, who next year will be pressed to be a starter for you. Because, like you said, like there's going to be attrition here. It's like you're seeing guys like play out of their ass. Like you're seeing Heald, Turner, and O'Connell all do it, and
Yeah.
like those are guys that have to know, hey, I got to play as hard as I can, as well as I can, because the Pacers could be sellers at the deadline here, could be willing to move for some action, knowing that like they just without Halliburton, they just don't have enough oomph. They're not moving fast enough. And I don't think the thing about Buddy Hield, he doesn't have the legs. He started out with the legs, but again, it's hard to keep up your training cycle during a regular season of your sport. That's the big reason that you'd be willing to move, I think. Is because when you watch Turner play late in a basketball game, is he a liability? Like, is he the last guy down the floor?
Yeah.
And when I see that, and then there's other players that I think like they don't fit your organization. They're just like a good basketball player. Um, McConnell, he don't really fit. He's too old.
Yeah.
So he's like a good vet to have, but like ultimately his team's so young. It's just like you could probably get something for him. He could probably go be a nice piece for somebody.
Yeah, you
Um,
might as well.
it's not because I like don't like these people. Like I'm a Pacers fan. I like the players more than I like the organization. But this is a podcast about the current Pacers, right? So my thought process regarding the Pacers is that it was fun to watch, will be fun to watch when they're healthy, but when they're not,
It
it's
gets
okay.
ugly.
It's okay to try to stockpile picks for the future, knowing like this group didn't get it done. These guys have tremendous value to somebody else. And I get it. A lot of people be like, "Oh hell no, I'm not trading Sabonis and Turner in back-to-back years, or getting rid of both my big name." And it's just like the reality is like, is Sabonis out there winning games on his own? Oh no, he's not. So it's like, hey, I get it. You like these people, they're pieces. If we're not talking about like game-changing players like a Halliburton is a game-changing player, then we're not really talking about winning a championship, are we? We're just talking, right? So I'm fine with it now. Now that Halliburton's been out, the losses start to roll in. Now it's like, man, we had some potential, but the wheels fell off. It just happens.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and that's
and
what.
it's fine,
Mhm.
you know, because this was never supposed to be your year. You just
Mm-mm.
don't have the
No, this
like
is a gift year.
the timeline doesn't fit because, you know, Tyrese, you know, Halliburton, as good as he is, he's still not in his prime. Maturin definitely not in his prime, like he's in his rookie year.
Right.
And those are, you know, your main two play, like your building blocks. So there is just, you
Oh, and
know,
Duarte.
those. Yeah, I don't know about him. Like at the beginning of the year, I was like, okay, he's going to be like the second. I thought before the year started that it was going to be, you know, Tyrese, Duarte, and Matring third, but it's been the other way around. And Duarte has not even been like I would not even
Was
say
he
like a top
injured too?
five. He was returning from the injury.
He was
Like
returning from injury.
he I believe he played like every single game, but his efficiency has not been the same. His shot making ability has not been the same. Like he's shooting under 30% from three, which is definitely not good. He's been shooting 34% from the field. Like
It's
he's
not great.
scoring diminished. Like his plus minus is terrible also because he's not a great rebounder. He's not a great like he doesn't get the ball moving too well. So in
Right.
the end, you're like, okay, he's not. He might not be the guy we thought he would be.
Right.
So you know, I
Well,
think
it's hard to
Tyrese
maintain.
injury was, yeah. Like I believe this was a team that was like really overachieving
Mhm.
as the six or number five seed. I believe Tyrese injury, you know, dropped us like down to earth again.
Oh yeah.
It reminded us, you know, like this is still a team that is not ready to compete just yet.
No, no, they're not. There's still a player or two away. As I look at the standings, Pacers currently sitting at a 9 seed at 23 and 25. Again, like I said, having lost 7 in a row, longest win streak in the Eastern Conference, uh, longest losing streak in the Eastern Conference, and the only longer losing streak in the entire NBA is Houston Rockets have lost 13 in a row, by the way. Um, so um, yeah, I think it's a good place to leave it if you're okay.
Yeah,
We kind of talked about, hey, this is season 2, episode 1, with the first pick in the 2023 NFL draft. It is officially draft season. Colts are also in search of a head coach. We covered that. Then we finished up talking about our beloved Indiana Pacers, who again were super exciting when they were healthy. They were so 7 in a
yeah,
row
man.
was
Yeah,
18, 23 and 18 before a 7-game losing streak after Halliburton goes down. And we talked about how there were some Pacers players that potentially be pieces to move to get more picks. This is already a young team. Why not just continue to get younger? Clearly, Rick Carlisle can coach and is great at developing
yeah,
players. And when you're great at developing players, and you can just see where my head's at. Like again, like I said, is the guy winning you a game on his own? Clearly not. You lost 7 in a row. The proof is in the pudding, is it not? So you go, hey, Turner ain't winning you a game by himself. Neither's McConnell. Neither's like a guy like Duarte, right? Like neither's a Buddy Healed, right? They're not the level of athlete that you like wouldn't continue to invest in. But you definitely move them, take on younger athletes, and just continue to do that until you get the right group of mix of
yeah,
players in there. And one of the things you'd look for is not so much of a fall off at the starting point guard position and then their backup. So it's like the Pacers need more depth, particularly at guard, right? Which it would lend itself to better athletes, smaller players, faster guys. So yeah, that's where my head's at here.
Yeah.
On season 2, episode 1 of the Cultist. How you feeling?
Yeah, it's we have perhaps a really entertaining year to cover Indiana sports with
Yeah.
the way the Pacers season is unfolding, and we have perhaps I don't know if you agree with me, like the biggest off season for the Colts since 2012.
Yeah. It's a
So it's
decade,
an
right?
yeah, that's a decade. So
Biggest in a decade. That's fair. I mean,
it's an entertaining time to be
if not,
covering the
if this isn't the biggest off season for the Colts in a decade, it's the biggest since the Quentin Nelson pick, right?
yeah.
To say the least, right? But to your point, yeah, like it is if I've been thinking about at what other position, if everything's going well at that spot, it makes it easier on other people. And quarterback is the position where if you solve for quarterback and can protect that, it makes everyone else's job easier. And so that's why it has to be a quarterback in this class, and they got to get it right. And whoever they pick's got to be good at developing a quarterback. So it's like you said, it's going to be an exciting offseason, finishing up this Pacer season as well. And then, of course, just getting to hang out with you, man.
Yeah. Yeah, always great.
Have a great week. Enjoy the rest of these games, and we'll get back with you soon. Stay safe out there.
Yeah.